What's up, Sneeples? Today we're going to be going over the sideboard guides and kind of the playstyle you want to play into each hero. As of now, you can take this deck, you can load it up on Talishar, and what you will have is all these matchups to see from. And I covered, I think, just about every hero. Maybe, I don't think I covered the mirror, but the mirror is the same thing as Kano. And so, yeah, you can just kind of go and click whatever you need to, and you can find what cards to sideboard in, what cards to take out, all that good jazz. But that doesn't necessarily tell you your game plan and why you want those cards. So that's what this video is going to be about. We're going to go over sideboarding for Iyslander. Okay, so I want to start with the big heroes. Right now, Oldham is a big hero. I understand he will be LL soon, so this might be just short-lived, this advice, but let's go over it anyhow. And as you can see here, this is the standard equipment set that we run against almost all heroes, the majority of heroes at least. And with Oldham, we are running some energy potions. That's kind of the big thing that's a little different, as well as frost hexes. We're running those as well. Now, honestly, with Oldhams nowadays, they run more like Bravo. So Oldham nowadays have AB1 and are aggressive. So I'm really thinking about taking Energy Potion out of this matchup, which can be super necessary if the Oldham is a more defense style Oldham. Then you do really want these E-Pods. But if they are just like the Oldham that we're seeing nowadays, where it's just super aggro, then the E-Pods just aren't going to do the job for you, and you're not going to want to have them in your hand because they won't block, and they're not going to be necessarily worth playing either. So, not playing Scar, obviously not playing Blizzard, so I took these cards out to add these cards in. And then we also have, because we are running 62 right now, and that is because we want the Command and Conquerors here as well. They are a block 3, but they're a 2 for 6. And when you're facing against Oldham, the play style you want to do is come in with your attacks, because your attacks are more efficiently cost in Oldham's. For 3 for 8, you can come in. Meanwhile, their 8 costs 4, right? So we are just more efficient. We can have a 2-card swing 8 where they need a 3-card swing 8. So that works out better for us. So we want to play this game because this is how we are actually being able to go back and forth. We can take some damage and deliver some damage. And we're going to kind of go back and forth on each other's life total until we get to a critical point, which is usually in the teens. That's when Oldham starts to block a little bit more. And then that's when we look to deal our arcane damage. Now, during this time, we are trying to set up the Insidious Chills here, okay? And then maybe Frost Hexes. If they're going aggro, this is just a block 3. This isn't a card you want to set up with. But if they are, going defensive, this is definitely a super important card you want to set up with. So you can kind of tell, based on the equipment they flip over, what type of Oldham they're going to be. But then you can also tell from the playstyle early on. Either way, we want to get the Insidious Chills out, whether they're defensive or aggressive. Don't take like a ton of damage to get these out, but try to have 1 or 2 out, because these cards are going to help close out the game against Oldham. They're not necessary; you don't have to have them, but they are a good card to help make things go difficult for him, and especially when he gets down to the single digits, because they start looking like old him. They start blocking a lot after that point. So, all right, so that is the game style to Oldham. So now let's get into the other big matchup, and that's Lexi. Okay, basic armor. Lexi, we have a few cards different. So I have the Encase and I have the Ice Bind. Okay. Some people bring in Channel the Bleak Expanse here. I don't have it in the list. I've tried it. I just didn't really like it all that much. It's for their 3-of-a-kind turns, and it just stops them completely, which that's really cool, but that's about it. I guess it stops maybe a Ponder token, but it's just, I found it not worth it. Encase, however, is huge. Just to stop them from being able to activate Lexi's ability to flip over their arsenal to have the second slot to start shooting arrows, can just time walk them. Now, they do need an arrow face down in their arsenal for this to work. Oftentimes, that's what they put, but, if it's just happened to be like a Winter's Bite or Rain Razor, then you're kind of feeling bad. Icebind, this is just to kind of freeze up an arrow. It's a 0 for 3. They don't have AB3 for the most part, so you can usually get in. And then the other thing is that some lists runs Fate for scenes instead of Ice Binds, and I'm not opposed to that. So if you think that might work better for you, then I would say go that direction. Ice Bind is really only for Lexi, though. Okay, so in this matchup, what we really want to prioritize, what the playstyle we really want to go with is, we'll still do the big attacks, but we have to tax them. We have to make their turns miserable. We cannot give them the five card hand, basically. So, we're looking to play our Aether Ice Veins. Brain Freezes can be big here. Definitely Blizzards. Channeling Frigid is king. You definitely want to play out Channeling Frigid. Have high priority on this card. Try to get that in your arsenal. Insidious Chills are good, but they are very hard to play in aggressive matchups. So you don't want to take a lot of damage to play Insidious Chill. And therefore, there's not a lot of opportunities. If you can catch them on an encase where they couldn't do anything, then maybe you can play Insidious Chill. If you catch them after a Channeling Frigid has been played, then maybe that gives you an opportunity. Try to not force this card, though. Don't take more than like 3 or 4 damage to play this card. If you're taking more than that, it's just really not worth it. But however, I will say, if you do get this card out, it does increase your chances of winning quite a bit. And that's because Aether Ice Veins just do so much more. Brain Freezes even do more at that point. Even the Encase and Ice Binds. So, it's a double-edged sword. But, yeah, it can be very important. This one is easy to play, easy to get in your arsenal, easy to make work. And that's really the one you really want to get going. Come at them with attacks here and there. You can come at them AB or Arcane in the early game, too. They don't have very much AB to stop that as well. Try to give them a Frostbite. You can plan or time your Frostbite, so hopefully have them not be able to shoot that last arrow. I would try to do that if that's the only disruption you have. But if your only disruption is one Frostbite, you can't have too many of those turns, because that's not enough. You have to take some cards out of their hands or stop their abilities or something. So this is your worst matchup by far, but this is a matchup that you're going to have to play super tight with. I took out the Scars and Wounded Bulls because they only block for 2. And we're bringing in Command and Conquer, so we bring in an attack to replace Wounded Bull, and then we're bringing in Arcane damage to replace the Scar. Okay, so that is Lexi. Now let's move on to Dromai. Dromai is my favorite matchup, and the reason why is because it is the most skill-intensive matchup and the most rewarding of that skill. Now, I like going against Dromai. I have a very favorable record against Dromai. The results won't tell because you guys have been playing the deck and you guys have been struggling a little bit, but that's okay. That's why we're doing this. But over here is before I made the deck public, and my Dromai matchups were very, very good. Anyhow, moving on. So let's talk about Dromai real quick. So Dromai, I have Metacarpus Node, and the reason I have Metacarpus Node over Ironhide Gauntlet is because Metacarpus Node has the AB1, which can be used for the Burn Them All and Azalea, but it also allows me to have that little extra reach in the end when I'm trying to kill them with Arcane on their turn. So that's what we're looking to do with Metacarpus Node. Now let's get into the main board here. We got a tight 60. That always feels nice. And the reason why you really want to try to have this 60 against Dromai is because you want to see your poppers. Quite often we have 9 poppers, so that's 9 dragons we can kill, but don't be afraid to play these poppers at the same time. Like, play them to attack with. If the Dromai blocks with a dragon, then the attack did its job. It killed the dragon. So keep that in mind. Definitely, use these to block, but if the opportunity allows, use some attack with. Scar for Scar and E-Strike are good at killing mirror guys, and you do want to kill mirror guys, especially when you still have poppers in the deck, because that's just going to help things out so much. But then if they play Passing Mirage against you, and they will play in the deck because it's a blue, definitely try to use these guys to get the Passing Mirages. I don't like to swing the big attacks at Passing Mirage. I would rather just not. Okay, here again, Channeling Frigid's big. So is Blizzard. Very big cards here. Insidious Chill's much easier to play in this matchup because, especially if you pop a dragon just in their turn, you can end up with 3 cards in hand. You play Insidious Chill in an Arsenal, an Ice card or something. And that's pretty nice. You have some different play styles here. So I tend to like to go to face with my attacks. The only dragons I will look to hit are Mirror Guy and obviously Thamai. But, and luckily a lot of Dromais aren't playing Thamai right now. But honestly, I like to go to face because we still need them to get low in life in order to have that extra reach with the Arcane. Now, let's do a little scenario here. If I had a Scar for Scar out, and let's say he had a Kyloria out, if I don't have a way to kill that Kyloria, which means I don't have like an Ice Vein Blue, an Aether Hill Blue, or an Ice Bolt Blue, or a Popper in hand, then I might just swing at the Kyloria with Scar for Scar. I still won't swing at the other dragons with these big attacks. Maybe a Necria. I will kill Uvia. Uvias can get annoying, but after a while, like, you kind of just have to accept that they're going to have a lot of dragons. And you're going to have to just mitigate the damage that are going to come from dragons. So we'll have gameplay footages for each, well, maybe not each of the hero, but the big ones, and Dromai will be included in that. So I will play against Dromai and show you guys exactly how I approach that matchup. But there's times where you just got to accept that they're going to have a board full of dragons. And as long as you can disrupt them with Blizzard or killing their dragon, because that will take away the action point, or popping their dragon, then you can accept them having that board state of dragons while you're able to kill one in their turn and still present damage to them. And that's really what you're looking to do. It's a difficult matchup on paper and on playing, but I think it's actually slightly favored. It really depends on the players here. It's not so much the decks anymore. It really depends on the players. Whatever player has more skill and a little bit more luck as well, as far as piloting their deck, will win the game. So not going to play Sink Below because other than Kyloria, they have really no on hits, and I'm not going to be too worried about that. And then, yeah, these are just kind of always in sideboard. So Sink Below taken out, bringing in Command and Conquer. Okay, so that's Dromai. That's my favorite one. Let's now talk about Usury, because Usury is seeing a lot of play. So standard equipment. We got a tight 60 here. If you want to go over 60 a little bit, I think that's okay, because Usury is one of the few heroes left where you will go into your second cycle. Everyone's hella aggressive now, and it's hard to get to your second cycle, but Usury is a little slower, and you can't get in your second cycle. If they are redline Usury, you won't get in your second cycle. You should be able to just win that game, because they just won't have the resources to, pay through your frostbites, which is really nice. But if you are going against the Usuries that we're starting to see get top 8 more, they run more blue, so you will go to second cycle. Okay, so let's talk about this. So I bring in Encase here, and that's because it does stop Usury's hero ability. So that's very nice. If you encased him, freeze her hero, then you don't have to worry about the switch. And that could be awesome. That could be great. Sink Below is pretty big here. But you have that in most matchups anyways. I think that's about it. I think we took out Scar for that. Oh, and I guess we took out Blizzards as well. So let's see what we replaced Blizzard with. We replaced Blizzard with Command and Conquer. Yeah, that makes sense. It blocks for 3, and that's really the big reasoning. You really want to block for 3 a lot in this matchup because you want to block 6. And so being able to block 6 is pretty important in order to still do what you want to do as well as taxing them and keeping alive from their sneak attacks. So let's talk about how we actually play into this matchup. I had to get some advice early on, particularly from Majin Bey, because he plays Iyslander as well. And against Zuri, I think he came up with a great point, and I've applied this, and it really does work. Try your best not to arsenal red cards. And that might seem obvious with Iyslander's ability, not being able to play red cards from the arsenal. But as you'll see from the gameplay, and as I've said before, with like the overall like strategy of Iyslander, being adaptable means putting red cards in your arsenal, and that's actually the most efficient way to play Iyslander. Is you want to put red cards in your arsenal because they are the most efficient one to attack with, and you can block with 3 cards and still have a good turn. So that's definitely what you would normally do, but here against Usury you don't want to, and the reason is because Usury has so many ways to target your arsenal. So whether it's leave no witnesses, Codex Referral to get leave no witnesses, Command and Conquer being switched in, she just has a ton of ways to disrupt your arsenal, and that's really not what you're looking to do. So try to keep your reds out of there. Obviously Sync Below is fine because you can play Sync Below, but past that, you're kind of just treating this as you're going to block with 2 cards and then present damage, and that's kind of why I had the Command and Conquer. You're going to block 2 cards, come in with damage. Block 2 cards, come in damage. But that's what they do as well. So you might have to just kind of start counting their switches to determine, okay, how many more like command conquers am I going to have to worry about? Shakedowns am I going to have to worry about? Surgical strikes or surgical extractions or whatever. Okay, it's a little tough, but let's talk about how to win. Channel Fridge is okay in this matchup. It's not as big as it is against other aggro decks. Insidious Chill is really good. Here it could be a little harder, but it might not be. It just kind of depends on where the game is. Basically, you are going to go to second cycle. So what you need to do in this matchup is you need to pitch your Emeritus Scoldings and Ice Eternals early, okay? As well as Ice Bolts, because these are the cards that win you the late game. It's these 3 cards right here. Insidious Chill helps with that as well. So try to get a few Insidious Chills out and try to keep them around. Don't just spin them all. And play your pitch your Mirror Scoldings, Ice Bolt, and Ice Eternals. Play your deck normally other than that, and then you'll find that it's like, okay, you will get the second cycle because they block us pretty well. They actually block our attacks. And then once that happens, you're going to have to rely on these cards to get you the victory. And it's actually quite doable. It's probably pretty close to around 50-50, but again here I think the skill comes in, and it takes a lot of skill to play Iyslander, so it definitely increased my gameplay, so I think it can increase yours as well if you get familiar with it. Okay, so let's see. What else do we want to talk about here? Let's talk about, I guess, Katsu Dorinthia, because I'm seeing actually both of these heroes spike in Talishar recently. A lot of people have been playing Dorinthia last week and now Katsu this week. So let's talk about that. We have the normal equipment. And a lot of things normal here. We are running Command and Conquer over the Scar for Scar. Again, blocking 3. Both these heroes, you want to be able to block very well. Because they both have on hits. I mean, Dorinthia's going to get counters on the sword. Katsu's going to, get his combo pieces. Katsu's a bit more challenging, but they both will, punish you if you just don't block correctly. So my best advice here is to play the matchup as many times as you can and get more familiar, when you need a block and when you can let it go, and when you don't need to worry about something. It's you have to really understand Dorinthia and Katsu to know how to play against them. Blizzard's very big here, as well as Channel Lake Frigid. These are aggro decks, so these are cards that you really want to try to push onto them. Get your Channel Lake Frigid in your arsenals, and then that's going to be so much easier to deal with both of them. Insidious Chill, don't force it. It's not as needed, but it does definitely help. So if it can happen, awesome. But it's just It's not as needed. Um, Brain Freeze is more better against Katsu, but even then it's kind of okay. But it's definitely better against Katsu than it is Dorinthia. So just kind of keep that in mind. It does block for 3 though, so in that way it's very good. Sneak Below is going to be good here as well. I think that's really the only change. Yeah. So it's an aggro matchup. So the key to victory here is come in with your attacks. They don't block. They certainly could, especially Dorinthia. She can block quite well for a deck, but they tend to not block. And so if they're not blocking your big attacks, you're getting damage in, and you're getting closer to the point where your arcane damage can kill them. And so that's the goal, just like every other aggro deck. Let's talk about Visceral. People like playing Visceral. Visceral, I'm going to run the Alluvian Constellos. The reason is because his rune chance will be able to act or trigger to get energy counters. And that's pretty nice too, because I can then, I usually have I don't actually usually have extra resource after, for a Waning Moon, but maybe I could pitch to prevent one rune chant and then be able to Waning Moon. And so then I also get a counter on this. Or, this allows me to get a free Waning Moon, and then I don't have to, I can pitch as much as I need to on those rune chants. So, okay, let's talk about how the deck looks. We have Scar for Scar over Command and Conquer here. If you like Command and Conquer more, go for it. I think that's fine. I understand Visceral likes to set up a little bit, so I could understand that. I just like the free cost of Scar for Scar. It's pretty standard. Channeling Frigid Blizzard, big cards. Visceral is pretty susceptible to Frostbites, so he's pretty easy to disrupt, and can really, you can really make that work. Brain Freeze isn't going to hit as many cards as like Katsu, so kind of keep that in mind. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's kind of just your aggro matchup. The way you win here, again, just attack them. Get some efficient attacks in and block with the other cards, and then arcane damage after the fact while you're disrupting them. I mean, it's much easier said than done, but like I said, we have gameplay footage coming. We will go over exactly what that means and how to actually apply that. But this is just all about Sideboard now. Okay, let's see. Who else do we want to talk about? That's kind of the big ones. We can talk about Kano / Iyslander. We can talk about the mirror. You're going to run AB4. You're going to run all your AB here. I have a Blizzard only because it's a blue. If you want, you can put in like a Scar for Scar instead. It's up to you. So it really actually does kind of depend as far as the playstyle goes. The deck looks similar to both Kano and Iyslander, but the playstyle changes a little bit. Iyslander the mirror is a straight up permanent race. You're looking to put out your Insidious Chills, your E-Pots, and your Frost Hexes, because the more permanents you have out, the more you can have a lead on them. Try to not play arcane damage. This goes for both Kano and Iyslander. You only play the arcane that can get through. So your red Aether Ice Veins are the only card that can for sure get through, because the mirror will play AB4, maybe AB5, and Kano will also play AB4, maybe AB5. So you are not going to have a lot of opportunity to actually get arcane damage through. On top of that, you don't want them to get free counters on their Alluvian Constellas. So come in with your attacks, prioritize the attacks coming in over the arcane damage. I don't like Scar for Scar, not against Kano at least, just because he's always going to be lower than you, so it's going to be just 0 for 4, so it's not that great. Against Iyslander, if you want to bring that in and take out like a Blizzard and something else, that's fine. Okay, I think that's about it. So yeah, so you want to attack. The way you win here is you want to attack, Arcane Barrier, everything else. Try to emphasize some attack. Channel Lake Frigid is actually pretty damn good in this matchup, surprisingly, despite how many blues they have. Particularly against Kano, for sure. I mean, this just makes it where Kano it's not going to be able to pop off, if you want to kind of just sit on a Channel Lake Frigid in your arsenal until you feel like the Kano might be in pop-off mode, where he has like E-Pots out and like a Potion Deja Vu out, and it looks like, he's been like it's been a while through the game, so he might be setting up. That might be the time, if you wanted to hold the channeling frigid for that time to play it, I could see that, because this can just help you win the game, basically. Frost X's are a great way to get a little minor damage in. Be aware, it will give them free Alluvian Castellas if, they can Arcane Barrier it. So, just kind of keep aware of that. Seda's Chill, not as important in this matchup. It is in the mirror, because the more you have out, the more your Icy Turtle can screw them up, or even Aether Ice Vein. But in, against Kano, it's just okay. It costs a lot, but it's just okay. What you're going to want to do is attack them and get them to where they have one card in their hand on their turn. One or two cards. So if they choose to do something, then you can play your card from the arsenal and then hit them with your Waning Moon. And that's how you're going to get, quote unquote, free damage in. But, kind of keep in mind you don't want that to happen to you as well. So, try to balance it out. I'll have gameplay videos for this as well. So, okay. I think everyone else is pretty similar to one another. There's not a ton of differences. We can go over maybe Dash. Dash can be a little different. You're going to run standard. I run 63, and the reason is because you don't necessarily know what dash you're sitting across from. Is it a boost dash? Is it a pistol control? Or is it even tree frog dash? And if it's tree frog dash, then you need Frost X's to win, and you need to, have the late game setup where you're trying to set up your Stitch Shield, Frost X's, and then Mirror Sculling, Ice Eternal, Ice Bolt to kill them. If they're boost dash, you can just block them out. You don't need to worry too much about that at all. If it's pistol dash, you're going to kind of treat them like a mid-range deck where you're going to come in with the attacks, get the damage through. They will block more, so you'll probably see your second cycle. But you can be able to set up a little easier, and it might be more like Tree Frog Dash. It's just a little easier because they won't have so much life gain. Okay, so that's Dash. And then, let's see, you're not playing Scar for Scars because Command and Conquerors are much, much better in that matchup, especially if they're running D-Reacts. Briar, I'm running no AB other than the AB2. You can use that for the sword. I don't want to have AB for Bramble Spark or Sonata. Briar is one of your easiest matchups, only because her embodiments of Earth gives you an opportunity to play a channel like Frigid before she even does anything, or disrupt her with Brain Freeze before she can do anything. So that's pretty nice. And then you're just doing big physical damage, and then coming in later with the Arcane, and that's how you beat Briar. I ran 63. I think it's because I have Command and Conquers and Scar of Scars. I think you can actually just take out Command and Conquers. Okay. Bravo. I guess we do kind of see a lot of Bravo, and Oldhams are more like Bravo, so let's kind of talk about that. If you're facing Oldham and they're more like Bravo, don't play Encase, because Encase does nothing against Oldham. It does do something against Bravo, though. It does prevent Bravo from doing his Tectonic Plating, but also from activating his hero ability to give Dominate, because we like to block with this deck, so we want to block. We don't want to get dominated. Your attacks are so much more efficient than Bravo's. So, just keep coming in with your attacks. And that's how you get him. He's a little harder because he has more armor. If he chooses not to play AB3. Which some of them choose AB0 or AB1. And if that's the case, then you're going to deal with a lot of armor. But you can still get there. It's still a good matchup. So just come in with the big attacks. And then arcane damage in the end. Channeling Fridge is not going to do too much against him because he has a lot of blues. So he's going to be able to pay through it. At least he'll be able to swing a hammer for 6. So try not to. The other trick and technique is when you're going against Antidotes, so whether this is Oldham or Bravo, and if they pitch one card to come in for 4, don't try to deal arcane damage to him then, because they can pitch another card, make it 6. All right. So either block 3 or block 6 and then deal arcane damage to them. They usually come in for 4 and then activate Van Brace, and then it becomes a 6. And that's fine. You don't them, prevention is fine. Who cares about that? And then you make them spend another resource. So that's kind of the goal. Have them make them do that to you before you give them the opportunity on their own to pump up the hammer by pitching another 3-cost card. And that's really it. Bravo's one of the easier ones for sure, just because it's pretty one-dimensional. It is very one-dimensional. You know what? We should talk about Azalea real quick. I know we're at the 30-minute mark on this video, but Azalea definitely has needs some attention because she is actually one of the bad matchups. Rangers are pretty tough here. Running 62, and that's because I'm bringing in the Ice Binds. What you want to do against Azalea, and I'm glad I'm talking about it right after Bravo, is you're going to treat it kind of like Bravo, because she is going to be a little bit like Bravo. She's going to come in with one big attack, and then you're going to come in with your big attack. The exception is Azalea has much better on hits. She has, Lace with Inertia and Seek and Destroy and stuff that just hurts our arsenal, as well as like giving us Blood Rot tokens. So we don't want that to happen, but sometimes we just have to accept that it's going to. Just try to play the most efficient hand you have. It's fine if you don't have an arsenal. If you're coming in with big damage, then that's okay. If you're taking cards out of their hand, that's okay. Just try to do your best to make the best turn possible, even if you are going to have no arsenal at the end because of an inertia token. If you're not getting threatened with an inertia token or like a Blood Rat token, you can take some chip damage and just present damage back. Channel Lake Frigid's very big here because she is not as blue heavy as Bravo, so this hurts her quite a bit. Emphasize playing this out. Azalea's probably the hardest one to, the Rangers are the hardest one to play this card, so don't force it. If you can, it makes it better, as I mentioned before, but don't force it. Brain Freeze can be very big here as well, particularly against Azalea, just because a lot of her pumps are 0 cost. So if you can take a pump away, that can be very, very big. And it's pretty nice because one of the first things she looks to do is Skullbone Cross Wraps. So it gives you an opportunity to see her whole hand. Cold Snap, just giving her Frostbites are pretty good because she is a little bit susceptible to it. Death Dealer kind of helps get around it because draw her card. But and then, in cases, can keep her from getting a Dominated Arrow, which is nice. So that's Azalea. All right. I mean, at this point, we're kind of going through them all, so we might as well keep going. Arachne, I run a little bit over because he's going to take cards out of my deck. This is another second cycle deck where you'll get to your second cycle. Just try to set up with these 3 cards. I have E-Pots here because, like I said, you want to add a little bit more. And then try to just get some damage through. He tends to block a little bit, or I guess they tend to block a little bit better. But regardless, you can still chip in a few damage or at least take cards out of hand. It's not the worst matchup, but it's actually not an awesome matchup either. Bolton is almost just free. You're playing everything that affects the combo. And if they're playing Raiden against you, then even better. Just know you don't want to block with your attacks because you don't want to pump his attacks up. So just block with your non-attacks, and so he can't have that option. And you've basically forced a Bolton to give him, he has to play cards that give his own cards go again. Otherwise, he's just done. Channel Lake Frigid, if he's playing Centauri Sabers, just sit on this card in your arsenal because that's probably just going to help you win the game. They're going to have to try to go off at some point. And once they do, and you play Channel Lake Frigid, it's really over. Blizzard is pretty bad too. So if they're playing around you, they'll probably set up with a few E-Pots, so kind of keep that in mind. But you can still threaten damage even while having no arsenal, so you're kind of okay with that too. All right, Fi is not as hard as it once was. He doesn't have Belittle anymore, which is kind of big. In case here, it's just damage over Scar for Scar, honestly. That's why it's there. I think you can just take out Command and Conquerors. It should be a tight 60, so just take out the Command and Conquerors. Just play it like an aggro deck. Come in with the damage at the beginning and arcane them at the end. Channel Lake Frigid big, so is Blizzard. Okay. And Reiner Levia. This is more like Bravo. Reiner particularly can be a hard matchup only because he can intimidate us to where we're not blocking with the cards we want to block with, and we're stuck with the cards that we don't want in our hands. So Bravo can be tough, unfortunately. Channeling Fridge is not going to do much against him, so block with that card instead. It's his chill. It's going to be real hard to set up as well. My best advice and strategy is to just come in with the damage. They don't block very often, so just come in with the damage. You're treating it just like Bravo. They're going to come with their damage, which is going to cost them a card from hand to discard and a card from hand to pitch. So that's not very efficient. And, you, like I said, Wounded Bull is a 3 for 8. So that's just 2 cards for 8. So that's pretty nice. Of course, they do have Swing Big, which is, that's their Wounded Bull, which is pretty good. The way you win that matchup is just try to get them on their channeling, or try to play channeling Fridge on their Blood Rush spell turn. I don't know. It's just play it, play the attack game and then Arcane Name at the end. Levia is much easier because she's not intimidating you, but just don't get cocky with her as well. Riptide, one of your easiest matchups. They're very, very red heavy. Just look to give them a Frostbite at the most inconvenient time for them, which is usually when they look to basically have no cards left in hand. And so what you do is, because in response to their Riptide abilities, so that they can put their card in their arsenal and just shoot it, you'll just give them a Frostbite so that they can't shoot that card. That's kind of the idea behind that. He's really one of the easiest ones. So just attack and give him... The Disruption's big. Disruption will kill that deck. And then, yeah. Okay, that is officially, I believe, all of them. I think we covered each and every one at this point. So that's kind of the gameplay styles. I understand me talking about it versus you seeing it is totally different. So, again, we will have the gameplay out. But I kind of just wanted to go over what you want to do for each matchup. So when you have your sideboard, what cards you want to prioritize playing and what cards you can just block with. So that has been the strategy sideboard guide. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will come out with some gameplay footage next. So until then, get to practicing and keep on fabbing.